Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Morton. My pronouns are she, her. I am the artist and studio manager here at Baltimore Clayworks. We are thrilled that you all have joined us. I would like to acknowledge that I'm joining from my office located on Piscataway and Susquehannock land, currently known as Baltimore, Maryland. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our virtual artist tour today given by Shea Kister. She is a long-term resident artist. If you have any questions during her talk, please feel free to type them in the chat at any time. And for more information about these artists, please visit baltimoreclayworks.org. I will now turn it over to Shea.
Hey guys, I would just like to thank Rebecca and Baltimore Clayworks for this opportunity and welcome to my studio. I will start off by being very transparent and saying I did reorganize and clean this place very well for today. I needed to do some spring cleaning anyway. So this is the cleanest you will ever see this space, and it is now very organized. And if anybody has any questions about my thought process on organizing all of my things, because I have so many things, let me know and I can talk about my thought process behind that. But as Rebecca said, I am a long-term resident here at Baltimore Clayworks in my first year. And this artist residency program is up to 3 years. So I'm hoping to stay for the entire time, but we'll see what where life takes me. A lot of the work that I've been doing most recently has been functional, but I've just started to get back into sculpting some things recently. And let's back up. So I graduated grad school almost a year ago this past weekend. And for my thesis show, I made exclusively sculptural work. And so when I graduated, I wanted to take a break from that and go back to the things that I loved making, which are mugs. Mugs are my favorite thing to make. I think that they can be so personal and so fun and a chance to play around with different glazes and compositions on a 3D surface. And also spiky mugs. The spiky mugs that I make and I'll talk about, they take a long time to make. And so I wanted to slow down and get back into the process of making some functional work. And so I've been making lots of mugs and tumblers, cups, bowls, plates, and jars, soap dishes, little baby vases, planters, like trying to look around, seeing what I all got here. All the functional things. And I have really, when I got to Baltimore Clayworks, I was experimenting with a lot of different clay bodies. And so currently I have about 5 different clay bodies in various bags around my studio, and playing around with how those clay bodies interact with the commercial glazes that I have grown to love and use in most of my work. And so that's been really fun testing. I love testing a million test tiles, and I've gotten really into some crackle glazes, some commercial crackle glazes, and layering those and seeing what happens with that. And I'm going to talk about functional things first in my studio. And so you might have seen in the past me talk about all the layering I do on functional work. And so I'm going to come over to this camera and show some functional things. So the layering process that I typically use, I have to keep things separate in my studio so I don't get confused on what step I'm on or stage I'm on. So typically I will start off with firing things to cone 6. Sometimes I will do cone 10 soda firing or wood firing, but lately it's been cone 6 I will start off with. And so I have certain commercial glazes that I love at cone 6, and the rest of my glazes I love at low fire at 06. And so I'll start with cone 6. And so this crackle glaze, am I on my screen here? This crackle glaze is a cone 6 glaze. It's quickly becoming one of my favorites. And so this was my first layer, as well as my liner glaze was fired to cone 6. And then once that came out of the firing, some words and then a outer layer of glaze at cone 06, and then down firing again for a overglazed decal at 010. And then this particular mug doesn't have any luster on it, but Then I will do a lot of luster firings at 018 over the top of those. And then this doesn't have any flocking on it, but I really love to use flocking, which is a cold surface. And it's kind of like loose felt, and you paint an adhesive onto any area that you want it to cover. And then you kind of spray with a manual sprayer the flocking over it, and those fibers will stick straight up, and that is what causes it to be fuzzy. So I like to think of flocking as loose felt, and I've really started to incorporate it into my functional work to give that texture difference, just an all around more user experience with the different textures, glossy versus matte versus fuzzy versus kind of sharp with the crackle glazes. And so we got a lot of layers going on. And I have been doing a lot more sculpture recently. And so you see this, I'm gonna move this one very quickly. Oh, before we get to the sculpture, I have some just thrown mugs over here. And these are how all of my mugs start out, normal or spiky. Just, I love a cylinder mug, very approachable form for me. And I think a lot of different compositions can come from just a nice cylinder. And so I always start out with a cylinder or a slightly volcano shaped mug. And then I go from there, and I will add spikes after I put the handle on or trim them. And each mug takes about an hour's worth of putting spikes on. So they take quite a bit of time, but it's very meditative for me. I like to slow down. I really slow down, and I'll watch a movie or listen to podcasts, layer some music, whatever's going on that day. But more recently, I've been getting into sculpture again, and I've been sculpting couches, and they start off like this, basically a rectangle, and this is about half built. I need to put my ornate edging maybe on the couch for like the armrests and stuff, and then an actual couch cushion on the top. And so these are how they start out. They're very rectangular, how they all start out, and then they will be finished. This one has spikes on it, but they will be finished. I like to add legs to give it some height, to be able to add spikes underneath, or I can sculpt smaller couches to put them underneath if my meaning for that piece calls for that. And so I like to give it some height, and then they are hollow on the inside, so I have to put supports, and so the couch cushion does not sink. Sometimes I intentionally leave those supports out so it looks like somebody has been sitting there. But the spiky couches really come from when a place of comfort, like a couch, becomes a place of avoidance. And that's really why a lot of my mugs have, a lot of my other things have spikes on them. So you're sitting there, your morning coffee with somebody, you love it, it's great, but you're in an argument, right? So when this place, this time of comfort becomes a time of avoidance, but you still need your coffee, hence the spikes. I always like to joke that they are a personal defense as well. Everybody should keep a spiky mug by their front door, just in case someone you don't know comes to the door. That's a little fun thing I like to say to people. And I just finished this spiky couch right here, so it's really on my mind, and I'm very patiently waiting for it to dry very slowly. And so I've been thinking a lot about how I want to surface decorate it and glaze it. And I think I did some testing with some crawl glazes on this weird spiky tumbler. And I put this commercial coyote crackle glaze over just a normal pink glaze. And it really thick, and it's really awful looking and beautiful and gloopy and crackly and amazing and textured and a little bit sharp and dangerous. And but it looks so pillowy and soft in some areas, and I love that dichotomy. And so I'm planning on doing a lot of crackly gloopy type of glazes on the actual couch part, and then glazing the spikes to be really shiny like a mirror. So it's almost like you're looking back in yourself in this place of comfort that has become your place of avoidance. So kind of like a call out to yourself. And what else have I been doing? Spending a lot of time outside. I've been spending a ton of time outside. The weather in Maryland is gorgeous, and soaking it up as much as I can before it gets super humid and hot, like everybody tells me that it gets here. And oh, I do have a couple shows coming up that a lot of my spiky mugs will be in. So watch out for that info coming soon. And I've really been, ever since we got back from our NCEGA conference, our annual ceramic conference, I have really been in make mode, and I haven't been finishing a ton of stuff. And all I want to do is make, and I have broken a lot of things, and I'm at the point where I really need to reclaim a lot of clay to continue in my make stage. And so I'm really just deep in making these days. And I will always be making mugs, always be making spiky mugs, but sculpture has finally started to weasel its way back in after a year of not wanting to do it, and allowing myself that space and that time to not worry about making things for a thesis show, and just having fun and playing around with the compositions of mugs and different clay bodies, and testing out new commercial glazes with those clay bodies, and getting adjusted to Baltimore.